Hi, my name is Moshe Kindler, and I'm the publisher of The Jewish Link.
Hi, this is Elizabeth Kratz. I'm editor of The Jewish Link.
And you're on the Jewish Link Pitch Meeting podcast. Elizabeth, we're here. It's a Monday morning. It's the day before the big DC rally, which looking forward to attending, which Rabbi Mann, I'm sure, is our guest, is probably aware of. But I really want to introduce to someone very special. He's a dayan for an organization called Eretz Hemdah, which I've known about probably for a while, over 20 years. Just a little bit of disclosure, I was a consultant, or I helped this special organization, Eretz Hemdah, a long time ago, well before the Jewish Link got started, and I came into the orbit of a fellow by the name of Rav Yosef Carmel. But Eretz Hemdah is an institution that's been around, and I look at it as basically a super cola. Okay, that's not the right word for it. I'm not even sure there's a proper parallel for it in the United States, but basically it's a group of majority from the Dati Leumi community, but not necessarily of dayanim and Torah scholars, leaders, whose goal was basically we want to create. We want to make sure that we want to have dayanim operating on a very high level, okay? And the only way to do that is to create Talmidei Chachamim, okay? And there are a lot of ways of doing that. And one of the, and I know the organization's grown and grown and grown since. There is a kolo training dayanim with a goal actually of making sure that almost in every city in Israel where they can, that they have dayanim sitting on the Batei Din, so to speak, and as part of that, they're also doing. Like when it comes to halacha in innovative areas of technology and halacha, areas of halacha that we need to address. And Rabbi Mann is, I guess you're the main Oleh, I guess the senior Oleh on the
several, but I'm the first.
You're the first Oleh, Oleh.
35 years ago.
Right, and I guess in many ways for the U.S. the English-speaking audience, kind of a face for us is also a weekly. Rabbi Daniel Mann is a columnist for the Jewish Link, and we've been writing for us for about a year, and we welcome you to the Jewish Link Pitch Meeting podcast, and welcome.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here. By us, it's already Rosh Chodesh.
That's right. That's correct. I forgot about that. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Chodesh Tov. So the columns that you've been writing over the past year have been consistently interesting, fascinating approaches to questions that we don't always get. They're very deep, in depth, which is something that's hard to do in 800 words, but somehow you're able to deliver that every week. So we're appreciative of it. And I think the reason for us wanting to get you on the podcast today, Rabbi Mann, was because over the last weeks in Israel, the questions about pikuach nefesh and the questions about sort of wartime halacha have started to come up more and more. And certainly obviously the day that the war broke out was different from subsequent days and subsequent decisions, but we're really interested in understanding what kind of halachic parameters the Rebbeim are using in Israel. And I think we do look to you guys as really a solid perspective that is similar in many ways to the American Orthodox community. And I guess we seek more. We seek more information, more understanding. And I guess if you wanted to talk a little bit about the principles of pikuach nefesh as it started and then how it's going as it related to the war, I thought that would be really interesting if you could share with us.
Okay. The matter of pikuach, first, thank you very much for having me and having me on a weekly basis and having me this evening or this afternoon by you. I decided to write for my weekly column about pikuach nefesh twice. Once about general pikuach nefesh principles, and once about, I think by you is coming out this week, if I'm not mistaken, about pikuach nefesh being different when you're talking about a state. We're talking about decisions about the masses. I'm not going to get into all the details, which the people who want can read can read in the different in your publication, other places where it exists. Certainly, the fact that you can be docheh Shabbat and other almost any other mitzvah to save a life is well known. To a great extent, in order to it's so well known. While there are many halachic questions about it, the biggest question usually is what's going on. What's what we call the mitziut? What's the situation? How dangerous is something? What are the ways of solving the problem? And that's why I'm a little bit reluctant to get into details, because things change from time to time. Certain questions I got in the first week about what are we going to do in the first Shabbat, about having computers on or televisions on to be up to date, to know what does this siren mean? Is the siren of the disaster, or is just one or two missiles, which will hopefully only one or two missiles. Hopefully we get shot down by our system, Bezrat Hashem.
And even further than that, even like just hearing the news, just what's going on, one could make a case for. So
one could make a case that would certainly be different. That would not be in the pikuach nefesh realm. So on the one hand, I still looking into it. On the other hand, I was saying it's got to be, even though the country is doing a million things at the same time, the chief rabbinate will come out with something before Shabbat about what to do. The government will come out with a silent station, which gives information only when there is a need. As we had, I made Aliyah a long time ago when the Iran-Iraq war, the Scuds shot at Israel. We had such a situation. And indeed, thank God, the country was ready in time with instructions. And then when people had asked me, I just maybe helped apply to their case, specific case, older person, younger person, more nervous, advice about how to implement it. The most important thing is knowing the situation. We have in Eretz Hemdah, it's a kollel of about two main programs, about 30 avrechim. The Beit Midrash is pretty empty these days because to get into Eretz Hemdah, you need to have served in the army, unless it was a special reason, like you weren't drafted yet. When I entered 35 years ago, I had not yet been drafted, but subsequently I served.
Can I just interrupt you? I just want to say as an aside,
yeah.
Some of the meat for me personally, I don't know if Elizabeth is the same, but I want you to know, for us in the community here, seeing some of the images of the Torah leaders, Rabbanim, Ramin, whatever, in full uniform. Sometimes it seems like they're actually part of the units, and they're not just chaplains. Even they're doing the reserve.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. We have guys in the kollel, big young Talmidei Chachamim, who are the commanding officer, not religious commanding officer, happens to be religious, happens to be a Talmidei Chacham. Commanding officer for every, for all practical purposes and formal purposes.
What I was gonna say was how powerful those images are of this guy, on the front giving divrei chesed. I'm just saying, then we'll get back to it. But that's been a very powerful image for, I think, the religious for I guess our community. I know at least they've been powerful to me. That's
very beautiful in a very positive and life affirming, Judaism affirming way.
Right. So we have. I'm not much of a social media person. I have two WhatsApp groups that I'm actively part of. One is an American rabbis group. I guess I'm an American rabbi, even if I'm in Israel. I'm a little bit, can be 1 foot in each side of the ocean. So I take part in that. I take part in an internal Eretz Hemdah WhatsApp group. And we have guys in different places. Again, few of them in the base medrash, almost all of them are in the front. And questions come up, halachic questions, other questions come up. And often I take part. I say, my word in that. I'm about 25 years older than most of the guys. When it comes to questions about implementing things, pikuach nefesh Shabbat, things like that, I rarely take part. I can if I want to, but I finished the army as a corporal. If you know your ranks, it's not all that high. I entered the army when I had 3 children. I was excused from the army when I had 6. I served for several years. Remember, I never felt that I got to the level of understanding of what it is to be at war. I was not at war. I was in intifada and guard duty, things like that. So if you're not up to speed on the specifics, just like you wouldn't want somebody paskening a shayla pikuach nefesh if they're not a doctor or a nurse or somebody, telling you that wound bad enough, not bad enough, on matters of this nature, you want to go to the experts. And Baruch Hashem, we have a wonderful army, including in the religious services of the army. And we rely upon them who have the finger on the pulse of what's going on there to make the rulings. I have, there was one time I heard a certain ruling, and I said to myself, well, I don't think I would have said that. And the person who mentioned it to me, I didn't say to them, I don't agree, for two reasons. First of all, because I don't know enough, and maybe the person who did it knows the situation better than I and understands the dangers that I wouldn't have thought. And second of all, it's very important that the system works, that people can trust the army, as long as there are responsible people doing it. And Baruch Hashem, there are many, many responsible people doing incredible work. They're the ones who should be doing it. So I wrote a pikuach nefesh from understand the principles of it, and the one which I think is coming out this week by you about how it's different in Israel, and that one decision is going to affect directly thousands or tens of thousands or 9 million people. How the rules of pikuach nefesh change as a result.
You refer to it as micro. I think you said the first one was micro macro, I guess, or I don't know. That's
yeah. The first one was more general. The second one was more focused on Israel, based on the teachings of Rabbi Israeli, who is the founding president and mentor of the Kol, one of the big poskim of the 20th century. Not only in Israel, but certainly especially in Israel, it had a very formative role in the development of halacha in Israel.
I'll just share with you an interesting case. Again, I'm not asking you for psak, but there's something that happened in the community that I will share with you, and I'm sure it's probably something you're aware of. One of the groups of soldiers, I think, were basically told they had leave 24 hours, Erev Shabbat into Shabbat. You got that? Meaning, like they were given 24 hours. Okay, Friday morning, be back Shabbos morning. That was the leave. Okay, they were a religious group. And happens to be that there was a group from Teaneck that was around this group at the time that they were hearing about this, and it came up like, what do they do? For they wanted to see their family, but they weren't sure what to do. Meaning, like they didn't want to go travel back, and apparently they asked, and the questions were like, could their family travel to? It was basically a whole cascading series of issues. Of Shabbos issues.
This is one of the major things that's come up and dealt with. You tweak the circumstances a little bit, and the answer changes. So I'd rather not go into every permutation, and it changes. Person, stage in the war, what their job is. That's one thing. That's sometimes we had some heated arguments on the WhatsApp group about that type of question. It's a very big deal. On the one hand, pikuach nefesh is so important, and all sorts of things affecting the army, including psychology, can play a very big role. As far as pikuach nefesh didn't start with wars, they maybe it started with wars, but you have questions about a woman going to the hospital, about doctors going. People have this question on a regular basis. Can somebody go along with the woman? Can a husband go along? Rav Moshe has a tshuva. The psychological matters of her presence of mind can also be pikuach nefesh. So these things factor in and make things can be a little bit dynamic. As somebody, so you just have a cookie cutter answer, it might not work out correctly. So that is one of the major questions that we have been getting. Sometimes it's answered by one's unit rabbi, and sometimes it's not practical. Somebody will have to make a snap decision himself, or his chance to get to his Rosh Yeshiva, to his Rosh Kollel, to his brother's, Rosh Yeshiva, whoever Rav, etc., whoever's going to come up with the answer. But those certainly amongst the most important, most frequent questions that come up. On the one hand, pikuach nefesh. On the one hand, for the right person, going the extra mile for Shabbat is also nothing to dismiss lightly. So those are very. If the circumstances were in a different or a different nature, I would say exciting.
I'll just share. I just want to share with you the follow up on this case because I think you'll like it. And by the way, I actually like what we said before the cameras. I like what you said, that line, which is I'd rather deal with the questions rather than the answers. I just want that's kind of what you're saying. I just like the way it came across. By the way, in this situation, just so you should know, the soldiers were given blanket heter, so to speak, to go to and from the hotel wherever. The families were not. Okay, so the families basically said, okay, maybe the only thing that they could do, the only thing they were allowed to do was to go check into a hotel or be in a hotel near Ashdod or Ashkelon. I think it was Ashkelon. And but they weren't allowed to go back and forth on Shabbos. So the soldiers said, well, that's a big burden on our family. That's, to ask them to come for half a Shabbos, and we're going to leave anyway on Shabbos morning. So this group from Teaneck basically said, we'll cover the costs for all your families at a hotel. So they were able to basically spend, Friday night, and I guess, not much of Shabbos morning, but I guess Friday night they were able to spend together in some hotel. So I thought that just it was. But I'm saying they were asking a number of questions, and I think they had got a lot of no's, a lot of but in the end they worked it out, so to speak.
Visitation causes all sorts of issues. Rav Carmel dealt with the questions of a soldier who comes home and we say it's not the right time of the month for his wife. And what happens if it's a situation, halacha is halacha. Things become a little bit more cloudy if it's a couple in which one is more religious than the other. And or if a couple which they're traditional but not religious in the full sense, and difficult choices of what they will do, if with permission, without permission, many very sensitive questions that visitation raises.
I had heard, but I wasn't sure if I was going to raise that, but I had heard that there are a number of, these questions, whether to be makel in hilchos in areas of nida. I'd heard that was an issue. I wasn't sure if there was an approach to it, or there's
permutations.
Yeah.
The permutations are very, very large, and it's there's a limit to what one can do, but. Again, when you have situations involving so many people coming from so many different stripes, it creates real issues, which Baruch Hashem, the Torah is equipped to deal with. And serious poskim, which I don't consider my posek, I consider myself a teacher of halacha, but poskim are able to have the shoulders to make decisions based on the specifics of the case, which can be very, very powerful and may change from one case to another case, which seem very similar. Had questions like that, kashrut. Everybody on both sides of all over the Jewish world, whether in Israel, want to help the soldiers. And so many people wanted to bring food, and there were many questions of people cooking for a whole unit. And then, yes, kosher, not kosher. The person said they use kosher, but not. All sorts of. At a certain point, I understand the Rabbanut said, just too many problems. It's not fair to the people there. We have food for everybody. You can't bring cooked food from outside. I understand that there were some fancy restaurants in Tel Aviv which don't usually have any hashgacha, who wanted to give, and they got the hashgacha in order that you should be able to get permission to send food to the army, which is again the amount of achdut and things that people are doing for each other. It's just a very big relief after we're not always perfect in that area, and the improvement unfortunately had to be on these circumstances, but embrace the good that we have of tremendous amount of goodwill from different types of people who don't usually get along in Israel, the brethren from abroad that I always, feel quite connected to. Certain type of people I grew up with. But people who knew nothing from Jews of Chutz La'aretz now all of a sudden get a list. These 5 people are davening for me, and this one sent me this, and this one sent me that, and they sent my unit this equipment, that equipment. It's just been very uplifting.
Mm-hmm. As a teacher of halacha, the way you define yourself, I'm wondering if you're also seeing, it's early still, but it seems like there's more interest in halacha today. Meaning people are, we're being singled out for being Jews, so to speak. People are more interested now. I'm just wondering if you're seeing that also, from your perch in Eretz Yisrael, as you're seeing that more interest in Jewish law, halacha observance. If people are just, we're getting hit with raise money for tefillin campaigns. Everyone is looking to don tefillin. I'm just wondering if you're seeing that, and if you have any thoughts on it, and also if it has an impact on maybe the work of of Eretz Hemdah as well.
To an extent, yes. I said the building became empty as far as most of our Avrechim, most of our Kollel fellows are in the field. But Baruch Hashem, we've been inundated with volunteers who have a nice large section of the top floor of Eretz Hemdah, and have been involved in providing things for soldiers. The first and maybe overall the foremost thing that they've been doing, I imagine you've heard in New Jersey as well, is making tzitzit. Making tzittis under our roof. Probably a couple thousand were made, and there's a need for it. Not just you have them, maybe someone put on. No, we get calls from unit. We have 30 guys in our unit who want the tzitzis. Can you get it? So that's Baruch Hashem happening under our roof. It's very nice to see people. At first, it was just we have a community of mainly Anglos who have a minyan over Shabbat in the mornings at Eretz Hemdah. And so at first, it was people from the Kehillah who would come making tzitzis and having other provisions for soldiers. And then it expanded to people of all stripes, soldiers coming in, retirees, kids, you name it, people come in. Some people have never been in the kol before. They come by, on the way up, they take a peek into the base medrash. Somebody explained this is a kollel, empty now because guys are in battle. So we do see the tzitzit. The first groups, we helped make sure that they were doing it properly. Have it down to sites, and it's just a beautiful thing. The shituf pula, the partnership and cooperation between different groups. We have a wonderful kehillah by us. If I could do a shout out to Alex Katz and Tuvi Elbaum, who are there yomim v'layla, dealing with the volunteers and providing for the soldiers, hand in hand with the kollel. Whatever we can help with, we try to help. And yes, there absolutely, what we get from the field is that there absolutely is a greater interest. Hopefully it will continue afterwards. But in addition to that, even somebody who's not doing it may not have putting on tzitzit, or maybe he is and plans to stop after he's not in battle. But the traditional parts, there are many, many people who we wouldn't call quote unquote religious, who don't, to say the men do not wear yarmulkes, if that would be a test. Maybe they make kiddush on Shabbat, they don't. They keep Shabbat. But there's tremendous as a whole gamut in Israel, probably more so than in America. And that side of it, people is, they're going back to some of their roots, that maybe a kid went to a religious elementary school and hasn't been religious since then. And now comes back to it, is reacquainted, and that certainly is something which is going on. Again, there's to a great extent a news blackout of things going on in the field for good reason. When somebody comes to gets out or visits, then sometimes we get stories that we previously had not gotten.
Well, it's true that also in America, if we could call it another front of this war, even though it's not a real front and it's not a real war. It's sort of a war of ideas or a war of words. But on college campuses, all of these people who essentially went to a nice private university end up the only place where they feel comfortable right now is in Hillel and in the Chabad house. And
preferably with a guard outside.
Right, exactly. The ones with the
Right.
guards. So it begs the question of what to do now with that at that moment, and to how to create an experience. It's sort of like, grasping opportunity from the mouth of incredible pain, and like trying to make head or tails of all this threat that is actually happening on college campuses, try to build something out of it. But we talked a little bit about it. I don't think we talked about it on the podcast before, but about the article.
I think, by the way, in Israel, I think most people are aware of it. I know in Shmoneh Esrei, I do add the personal requests in Shmoneh Esrei, basically beyond the 18 brachot. And when the war started, I said, the new things to incorporate, and I start adding things for, I always said something short about Hashem protecting us, but then the hostages and the soldiers. And after about a week or two, I hearing the story, I said, 1 second, I need to add that Hashem should protect our brothers in Chutz La'aretz from anti-Semitisms of all different forms. Now I say that 3 times a day, because that's, I'm too old to serve in the army anymore. But so I'm sort of on the sidelines, rooting and trying to help as much as I can. And the way the world is nowadays, you're not that farther away from the sidelines, than I am. We all can do things. We can send a message. You can provide. Can do that. And really, everybody's involved. And to a great extent, the people going tomorrow to Washington are soldiers. Soldiers perhaps without guns, or maybe the guns are the tefillin and the tefillot, and doing things. And I think people there, should be safe and should be effective and should be inspired. And really, again, there's a feeling that the kids on the college campuses are brave soldiers when they stand up to bullying, or however they deal with the situation. That they're that they're doing important things for Klal Yisrael and for themselves. Because I think when this is over, hopefully sooner, a lot sooner than later, there'll be have a happy conclusion. People will look back and ask themselves, or maybe their kids will ask them in 20 years from now, what did you do then? What did you do? 6-Day War, I was 2 years old. I didn't do anything. In 73, I did a little, as a Jew from Chutz La'aretz, but I know my parents were involved, and everybody gets involved, writing, giving, davening, an extra mitzvah, not talking Lashon Hara. Everybody should be able to look back and say, I felt I did something significant. If I had been born in Israel or had made Aliyah earlier and I was able to serve in the army, that would have been incredible, perhaps scary, but also tremendous chut. But I did what I could do where I was in the situation I was in.
By the way, not to put you on the spot, but basically, I'm sure you're familiar with. I don't know actually what they did in Israel. Maybe you could even enlighten me about Avinu Malkeinu. We added a bunch of tefillot. I don't know what the poskim did. I don't know what Eretz Hemdah's position has been. For example, a number of the American rabbanim added Avinu Malkeinu. We've added now, 3 parak of Tehillim now to the end of davening. By the way, most of the shuls in North America, I think, have stopped doing Avinu Malkeinu because the feeling is that it was making it not special anymore, not chashuv anymore. So I'm just saying, what's Eretz? I mean, what's been, and also then, and there are other things like today. Rav Hershel Schachter called for today specifically to be a Yom Kippur Katan, like a fast day. I haven't heard any. So enlighten us in terms of the approach to these kinds of positions and what's been done.
As small a country it is, it's also a big country. So many places, I think there's almost no shul that hasn't added something. Eretz Hemdah, we've been doing Tehillim after every Tefillah, and we did Avinu Malkeinu for a certain amount of time, and we didn't. Then we stopped with Avinu Malkeinu. Today we did Yom Kippur Katan, the special slichot. I didn't ask people what they were doing. I fasted half a day. I used to be a better faster, but as a kidney donor, I'm not. It's better that I don't fast more than I need to. So I did half a day. But in my neighborhood, there was a lot of Yom Kippur Katan Midyanim, but everybody's involved. And should we say some people do more in quantity, less in quantity. Important thing is that people are caring, people are doing something significant, and I certainly it's not wasteful for somebody to do Avinu Malkeinu. Certainly, a person can care, and his Rav decided that it's better not to do Avinu Malkeinu. It's from my perspective, it's all good with the proper intentions, which Baruch Hashem abound.
One thing I always find is when we get on the phone with someone who's in Israel right now, I feel like we become the people getting chizuk, whereas our intention is to provide it, but instead we end up receiving it.
Yep, that's
so
for sure.
I don't know, but thank you.
Yeah,
I have the same feeling when I come in contact with soldiers and things like that. I have 2 sons are in the army now. So not that much they're allowed to tell me, so I don't get too many stories. But everybody has their own experiences. Hopefully, unfortunately, have come inspired from funerals. Hopefully, we get inspiration in happier ways. Hopefully, tonight was for me was a nice opportunity to discuss certain things. Again, there are many different types of questions that come in, and some of a standard basis, a simple Hilchot Shabbat questions. A Talmud sent me a question about in his hideout spot, which he had. He described it to me and asked, is he allowed to carry within it? Is it considered a Reshut Yachid and not a Reshut Yachid? That could be, a question on somebody on a camping trip.
Well, you're saying he's in a foxhole that created a Reshut Yachid. I mean, he had like wall. I mean,
Yes, he had a few walls, a little bit walls, yes, a little bit walls, not a roof. So all the different types of questions. Halacha, Baruch Hashem, is equipped with answers for just about everything.
Brother, can I ask you what you decide? I know it's a specific. What you decide for that fellow?
It has about inside and outside. The inside I thought was fine, and the outside I thought was not. That was in his specific camouflaged hut. But
I'm going to guess that this was a unique. I'm not sure every single Talmud would be thinking about these kinds of things. I'm just saying I don't know who this fellow is, but he made an impression on me. Let's just say
the Talmud is also a young Talmid Chacham.
Yes, I assumed as much. So interesting.
But it's incredible. So many people care so much. I remember a story that to use name of a very important and beloved rabbi in your area. Once during one of the smaller wars that we had here, Rav Schachter Shlita was in town, but gave a shir on. It was in the summer. I don't remember if the shir was about the laws of the 9 days or was about war. But in any case, the two came together, and he told he got questions about I'm in the army, and the only rations that I have are fleishik. Am I allowed to have it during the 9 days? Rav Shechter choked up and said, like, from an intellectual basis, that's such a stupid question. Obviously you can. But it's such a beautiful question that's what somebody's thinking about at a time like that. I am at war, but I'd rather not skip out on anything that I should be doing to the Kutzos Yud, the smallest minute detail. It's a beautiful sentiment. And Baruch Hashem, Klal Yisrael shines at different times. We should shine in difficult times and then remember how to shine just as bright and maybe even brighter in wonderful times until all the times are wonderful on a consistent basis.
Amen. Wow. Okay. I liked Rav Shechter's anecdote. I like your anecdote. That will certainly stay with us. Rabbi Mann, I think. Thank you. I guess we'll. I think we'll look forward to. I guess I'll look forward to reading this week's as well.
Yeah.
I think I was thinking maybe asking about some of the concepts of war and halacha, but I don't know if we need to speak about that.
Save it for next time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Rabbi Mann, thank you very much. Laila Tov.
Laila Tov.
Thanks for being with us on the Jewish Link Pitch Meeting podcast. If you would like to participate or be in touch with us in any way, please email us at editor@jewishlink.news and follow us and find our podcast wherever you find podcasts.